Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about all the components that make up 3D geometry, and then we're going to get into how you move it around, how you get it to go from place to place, and how you put a couple of lights in it, and how you render stuff out. So it's going to be a kind of a packed session here, but it's okay. It's going to be it'll be good. So I'm just going to create a new scene here. I don't need it, so just want to start with a fresh template. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to create just a sphere. So you guys can go ahead and do that. So it's just right here at the top. Or again, as you can go to create, polygon primitives, sphere, you can do that as well. Okay, so now when I select on my sphere here, I'm going to just zoom in so we can see a little bit better. Okay, now you can see all of these rectangular shapes here that ultimately, as we get up to the top, they kind of become triangular right here at the top, and they all meet right here at this point right here, right? Okay, so again, going back to the actual class of geometry that you might have had, there really are some very essential components to geometric shapes. There are lines, there are polygons, and there are points, or also known as vertices. So probably the main component that you really care about the most in Maya and in geometric shapes are the polygons. So I'm going to just show you kind of how this works. So I'm going to right click on the object here. So I'm just using my right click, and it brings up the marking menu here. And you can see we've got some options. We've got vertex, vertex face, face, and we also have, where is it? So I'm just going to go with face right now. So you can see now that it changes into a different view set here. So as I run my mouse over it, it's just highlighting each polygon face that it's coming across. Now, if I just select on any one of them, you can see now that it's turned orange, and if I rotate around here, that it's been fully selected. So I can also hit the F key, which will bring it up and center it, or frame it as it actually is known. All right, so now the cool thing about this is, this is one of the main components of it. I'm also going to go into vertex mode. And so now you can see that the points, or again, as the vertices, as they're called, as they're highlighted. So that is, it takes 4 points to connect around for a polygon, or 3 sometimes, or multiples, but whatever. And that is a prime component of it. Also, we have the lines in Maya. They're actually called edges, but these are the lines that make the connections. And so you can select on one of those, or and kind of fun here, if you double click on it, it'll select the entire line that goes around. And it goes the same way this way too, so it can go around the entire hemisphere of what it's doing. So why this is important is that it's through this connection of the polygons, the points, and the edges that we do all of the work. And it's this premise that literally the entirety of what you look at in gaming, what we're going to do in 3D sculpting, what you do in all of 3D animation, it's all based on this entire premise. So points, polygons, and lines. And so once, and every single one of these points and lines and polygons, at least from the way Maya kind of understands it, it has a specific place in 3D space. Now, if you remember, the very, very center of everything is called the origin, and that is an X, Y, and Z value of 0, 0, and 0. So this point, if I go back into the vertex mode here, this point right here has a very specific place in X, Y, Z space. I don't have that number, but it does, and Maya knows where it is. And so If it moves, it knows, Maya knows that it's moving and that sort of thing, and it can calculate all of the math that's associated with that. Now, the thing that we can do here, and I'm going to give you some time, or you can pause the video as we go on. You can move these around, and this is again becomes the premise of what we really call modeling, and where you can shape these objects and you can change them just by moving either lines around or by moving faces around or doing a couple of other things. So I'm just going to go back into face mode here, right? And so I've got this one selected. It kind of stayed selected. Now, here's the thing. If I hit the W key, which you should know by now is the move key, I can move this thing around. So I can pull it out, or I can move it kind of randomly. And it starts very quickly, starts to change the way everything is looking, right? So you can kind of see that it doesn't take very long to start to move this mesh around and start to kind of massage it into being something else. Okay, and from a modeling standpoint, one of the things you really want to think about is what's the base object that you're going to be using to start to sculpt and shape things into what you want them to be. All right, so I'm going to Control Z that, and I Control Z that as well. That's undo, just in case you didn't know that. That is the same in basically every other Windows program. Control Z, undo. Maya has a ridiculous amount of undos. So if you really make a mistake 25 moves ago, you can usually undo your way back to safety. So that's actually pretty cool. All right, so same goes here. I'm going to go into the edges. All right, so if I double click this one, now I can move that around, and it does all, it starts to change things. There's that, or a better use of it is actually you can box select. Okay, so let's say I want to grab all these edges, so I can just left mouse click, and I'm just dragging a box around here, and I'm selecting all of them, and that didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. In fact, it got kind of weird. So I'm gonna deselect, just click off into the gray space here, and I've just reframed my camera a little bit, so I've got a little bit better of a view. And now I'm just going to drag a box around here. So I'm just selecting these here. I got. Now I've selected these. Now, if I want to add to my selection, I'm just going to hold down the Shift key. You'll see that the cursor changes to a plus there. So I'll just double click, and now I've got all the ones that I want. So that's there. Now, and then the cool part there is now that they're all selected, I can just move an entire section of selected stuff. And again, the same would go for if I went into face mode. We'll do vertex mode, okay? And I can do the same thing. So now that is, that's kind of how we handle and that stuff. That is just the essential components of it. Now, I want to kind of show you something as part of the modeling process, and this is just a real basic part of it. But okay, so this whole thing has been occurring in this perspective view, which you can see right down here at the bottom. It says perspective, and and basically just by moving around, that's the Alt key and left mouse click. I'm just moving around, or I can hit F and it'll center it up for me. But that's just one view. Okay. Typically speaking, when you want to actually do legitimate modeling and you need very specific views of things, you're going to want a quad view or two views sometimes. But over here on the left is the panel. This is the panel layout, and I want to do a quad view. I can either click this like this, and it's gonna bring it into a top view, front view, and a side view. And these are orthographic views, which means basically you're seeing it from these specific angles. The cool part about it is actually that that, you know, you can zoom in and out just like you would normally do, but you're locked into one perspective, right? So you can't rotate around, you can't do anything. And sometimes from a selection perspective, it makes it a little bit easier. You know, if like I want to just draw a box around it, there's no weird offsets to it, so you can do that. Now, if you hold your cursor back over any window and you want to maximize it, for example, like I'm going to hit the space bar and it brings it back to full screen. If I hit the space bar again, it brings it back to the quad view. And the same goes for any of these views. If you hit space bar with the cursor in that window, it's going to maximize it for you. So, so that's the quad view. We'll get into that a lot more as we move forward. I just wanted to point out that it is there. It's one of those things that you can use. Okay. So those are the main components of the whole thing.